Most doctors think that scaling their clinic is about luck, their location, or leads on social media. But here's the truth. It's really about consistency, KPIs, and culture. At Limitless MD, we coach physicians on how to scale their income without sacrificing their sanity. And recently we brought on a new coach, Kareen. She's a globally recognized results coach with over 14,000 one-on-one sessions under her belt. One of her clients, a functional medicine clinic, went from $500,000 of revenue to over $4 million of revenue in a short amount of time. And today I'm going to walk you through exactly how she helped the clinic owner make that happen. So many physicians, their goal is to go for revenue. The problem is revenue without profitability is insanity, right? You need to have profitability. And so revenue for revenue's sake leads to stress, uncertainty, and essentially you've bought yourself another job. So the key here is, how do you have the income, the impact, the fulfillment as you scale? And then this becomes a sustainable business model. The clinic started in 2018 at $500K. In January 2022, they crossed 2 million. In 2023, 3.2 million. 2024, 4 million. And now on track for $5 million. So how'd they do it? Well, let's break it down. First step is measurement is everything. What they did was they reevaluated their sales funnel, right? And looked at the metrics. Specifically, they start with the top, right? Leads, leading to meaningful conversations, leading to booked visits, leading to signed patients. So what they did was they measured each and every one of those steps. And if there's a drop off or a degradation, they're like, hey, what happened? Where's the leak, right? And they fixed the bottlenecks. So whether it's unclear messaging, no reminders, poor follow-up, they fixed it. And remember, 2 to 3% improvements over the funnel lead to geometric returns at the bottom. I'll give you an example. As they improved their leads from just 10 to 15%, as it filtered down through the sales funnel, their revenue growth increased by 50%. So the next thing is strategic offer design. This is really figuring out, hey, what do I need to offer next? Like, let's say you already have a couple of offerings. What's the next offer? So what you want to do is, what's the lowest effort, highest margin product or service that you can offer? And in this case, they had a machine that they invested in that was very low cost to utilize, one-time fee, limited overhead, and it created easy income very fast. They also added new services like supplements, which grew from $150,000 a year to $1 million in annual revenue. Then they were able to also figure out, hey, their main signature offer, how do we construct an irresistible offer, what we call a grand slam offer, right? And so this is based on Alex Hormozi's equation, where it's dream outcome times perceived likelihood of achievement divided by effort and sacrifice times time delay. In layman's terms, what does that mean? Hey, if you have a goal or you're trying to solve a problem for a client or a patient, if it's much more likely for them to solve it or achieve the outcome, if you can make it faster and easier for them to achieve it, it becomes more and more irresistible. So in marketing, they changed their Instagram strategy from just posting random things to actually having a coherent messaging. What they did was they added value, gave tons and tons of information for free. They started showing a roadmap of the client journey, and they showed them exactly how to get to their goals. But they showed them the what, they sold them the how, meaning they sold the implementation. The second is they created a roadmap to get to the destination that all these clients and patients are trying to get to. They showed them every step of the process, but they sold them the implementation. Then they started answering the most common obstacles or questions people had. They started creating what they thought most patients have in terms of questions, and they created a frequently asked questions list and answered them, each one having a separate video, so people felt like they knew what to expect coming into the clinic. And then he posted exactly what they do with clients and patients. So they had a videographer follow the doctor around, and every time he was working with patients, they videoed him doing these interventions or interactions. And so people got to see what they would expect. So it's not a surprise when they walk in the door. So then let's talk about team, culture, and leadership. Success begins at the top. If the CEO is not dialed in to the team, the culture, and is not leading from the front, there's no momentum that the company can have. And so what happened was this doctor started stepping up and becoming a true leader. He had daily huddles where he would check in with all his team members and find out a couple of questions like, hey, what's going well? What's not? What do you need from me? Are you stuck anywhere? They really emphasized growth, connection, accountability, and mission. And they used what we call the limitless growth system, right? They figured out, hey, what do I want? Why do I want it? And how am I going to get there, right? And if they did that for all their different obstacles or projects, and they got crystal clear clarity and they got leverage, which is the horsepower to get there. And if I had to add a bonus, I also added who. Who do I need to be to achieve these kind of outcomes? Like, what kind of state do I need to be in? What kind of identity do I need to espouse? I'm a $5 million clinic owner, right? They had to have that belief system even when they were at 500K. And one of the main constraints of any business is operations and workflow. So by improving the operational infrastructure, they implemented SOPs, standard operating procedures, and systems to where there was no major bottlenecks, and they were able to process the increased number of patients that they were getting. They learned to scale the unscalable. What does that mean? Well, patient experience, right? When you're a very small clinic, you can give that boutique one-on-one white glove experience to your clients, your patients, and your customers. But as you scale, how do you maintain that, right? And that's the concept that Will Guidara talks about in his book, Unreasonable Hospitality. And so what they did was they made sure everyone felt special. If there was your birthday, you got something. If you walked in the door, they knew your first name. They knew about your kids and your family. And they protocolized that so every new employee was able to espouse that. They didn't let people wait. They made sure people didn't exceed a certain amount of time before they got seen. They didn't just make this as a transactional process or a commodity, right? Because if you're competing with all the other functional medicine clinics out there and everyone's just a number, then it's not a unique experience. But they created an emotional experience. There's aromatherapy when they walked in. They were greeted warmly. They knew their name. They felt special on their birthday. Each patient had an experience that they went through. And so they're willing to pay the premium to have that experience. So I know what you might be thinking. Vic, that's great. That's good for them. You know, they may have had more money, more team, more resources, more time. But I'm too busy grinding away at patients. And let me tell you this, I've worked with a lot of physicians at this point, and one of the first things I do is we talk about how to increase capacity and bandwidth for the physician. And first, that's unloading the physician himself or herself. And second is building a little bit more of a team. Is that getting an MA to help out? Is it getting a physician extender like an NP or PA? Is eventually hiring another physician? They don't realize that they can actually double their income and cut their workload in half by bringing on more team. Most doctors are booked out 3 or 4 months, 5 months ahead of time. What that means is they're not demand constrained, they're supply constrained, meaning they're not providing enough bandwidth or fulfillment capacity to handle the volume that they have. The other thing is if you're a cash-based practice, you can raise prices. Maybe with seeing half the patients, you can still make more money, right? So there's so many ways we can pull the trigger. But the key really is understanding where you're at, what's your capacity, what's your capability, and your future growth pattern. So if you're running a functional or cash pay clinic, I want to give you 3 tangible things. Number 1, you need to audit your client or patient journey. Where are you losing them along the pathway? What are the measurements of every step? Next, check your offers and see, is there any service or product that you would add or boost or take away to increase your margins without much work? Next, have an honest dialogue with your team. Ask them what they need more of, what they need less of, what's working, what's not, and how they can help you take the clinic and the practice to the next level. And start using the valuable resource that is known as social media and post consistently. Consider answering the top 20 questions people have about your product or service and answering them so they can see the value. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to improve 1% every day. If you want to scale your clinic without burning out, if you want to build a business that creates true freedom and not just income, you don't have to do it alone. We help healthcare practitioners and doctors design scalable, profitable clinics every day. If you want my help and work with coaches like Kareen, click the link below and join the waitlist for our Infinite Mastermind.